Hello, everyone. How are you guys? Hope you're having a good week. Looking forward to reading all your papers. I'm going to get on that tomorrow, so you should start seeing the papers coming back over the next, 2 to 3 days. So I just wanted to first go over what you're doing for next week. First of all, we went over this book. This is Isaiah Walker's book, Waves of Resistance. And you can get this. You can actually download this from the library. And this is the Critical Surf Studies Reader, which has a lot of scholarship about surfing. I was going to have you guys read some of these. They're excellent articles, but I just didn't want to overload you. And then, so next week, we're really just comparing William Finnegan's Barbarian Days with Jerry Lopez's Surf is Where You Find It. So I thought I was going to be able to scan a chapter of each of them for you, but my scanner isn't working too well, and I just actually put an interview by both of them, so, and also a book review. So make sure to go over the book review and think about your own book reviews and that you did earlier in the semester, and kind of compare and contrast the reviews and how they're helpful for you if you were going to read the book. Surfing Where You Find It is very different. It has a lot of imagery, and it's a very interesting way the book is structured. Actually, I've never seen anything like it. But it's an amazing book about Jerry Lopez, and it really focuses on his idea of surf realization, which is he goes to yoga type retreats and he gives lectures on his surf realization. So William Finnegan, a very different book, hardly any pictures. And I think if you were to read it, you would find that he really tries to create pictures through his words. But he's a journalist who is still a surfer. But I think the title really says it. Barbarian Days is what he kind of thinks about his past surfing, his surfing life. So try to, when you're looking at the interviews, when you're reading the reviews, try to get an idea of how these two different people perceive surfing and why it's different. And, that's something we kind of looked at in the Eddie Aikau literature, where, some people saw Eddie's love as the thing that killed him, and other people saw him dying and doing what he loved and kind of going back to his home, which was in the sea. So this is something that's really important to look at when you're looking at a counter culture, especially as it intersects with capitalism. So, people are making money off of these various perspectives of looking at life. And the books have very different audiences. But anyways, have fun with that. Okay, so I wanted to also go over your posts from last week, and they were really fun. And I really enjoyed all of them, actually. The last couple weeks. So I first wanted to go over the Moolelo, the surfing Moolelo. And I'm actually working on a paper and a chapter of my dissertation with some of these stories. So here's what, I kind of got things that I was going to focus on when reading these stories, which is travel, love and romance, close observation, arts of war, religion, and territory. And I think you guys hit on a lot of these things. And I thought it was interesting that you picked up that, surfing often determined the land, who got to live on the land. And, this is where I kind of differ a little bit from Walker, who says that, surfing in our local spots here in Hawaii is not just brute territorialism. Well, I think it actually kind of is. It's carrying on this view of land, and that in order to, occupy this land, you have to know the land intimately. So I think, you know, a lot of people got the idea that surfing was, you know, to be an expert surfer in Hawaii, which is often translated as akamai. So akamai in Hawaiian and the word expert, I would see as something very different. Akamai being more like a word like smart, keenly aware. They're using this word expert and they're saying things like, you have to ride that wave all the way to the beach. You ride the wave to the beach without ever getting wet. And the word is kind of like e pai ana, so all the way to the shore. So I think a lot of you guys got that. And you talked about how, you know, before people, you know, won something for doing these surfing competitions, and today people win things. But I think there's big differences there that you miss, which is who's competing in the contest. It's a very controversial subject in surfing, and it has to do with you know, a territory again, land. Also, something I wanted to hear you guys tell me more is, what does it take to ride a wave all the way to the beach? What type of skills does it take? Some of you pointed out it's not like tricks, right? But nobody really went deeply into what do you have to do to ride a wave to the beach. So what I would say you have to do is you have to know the spot, first of all. Then you have to know the waves and where to position yourself in that lineup so that you're going to catch that one wave that is such a long ride. And then you have to be able to catch the wave and keep finding the energy. You have to keep, you know, that's why we do cutbacks. That's why we kind of go down the line. So we have to know how to use our boards to find that energy. And then that's when we will be able to ride the wave to the beach. So I think this is very different because it says something about, you know, Hawaiian culture and why surfing was so important, because people were showing that they knew the ocean, that they knew how to read the ocean. And that's the reason you guys did your journals. That's part of the reason you're doing the surf spot paper, is to see that this is a real science, you know, reading the ocean. And some of you pointed out that a female surfer was the best surfer in the land. So why could this female surfer become the best in the land? Well, because the criteria was not so much someone who was the strongest or the quickest. It wasn't that. It was the surfer who could pick the best wave and ride it all the way to the beach. So, and I think that's something that I really want to touch on with the women's peeps. And it's something that, you know, really comes up a lot in women's sport, which is, you know, the women can do anything that the men can do. And, you know, I think a lot of women start out that way, but the women who go to the highest level and the women who are at the most extreme spots often admit that they cannot keep up with the guys. And that's something, especially when I started surfing pipeline, even more than Waimea or anywhere else, was that I had to acknowledge that I was not as strong as those guys. Because if I didn't acknowledge my own size and strength, I was going to get hurt. So instead, I had to figure out what I could do to improvise for that. And surely I had skills that maybe some of those guys didn't have, that you know, made up for it in different ways. So when we're looking at Moolelo, there's also something very interesting like a name. So this name of this female surfer who's unparalleled in the surf is Kane Wahine Iki a Oha. Some translations say Kane Wahine Ike a Ohe. So we have to start asking ourselves, ooh, does that name have a meaning. So yeah, those were the things that were interesting that I just wanted to add to what you guys came up with. But I think you did a great job. The Kahikilani story is, this is a prized favorite. He comes to Palmalulu, which is Sunset Beach now, is what we call it. So if you did your favorite surf spot about sunset, then I hope you talked about Palmalulu, and I hope you included this story, or at least referenced it. But there's different versions of the story. So this is my analysis here of the two different versions that we have of this story. And one of the most important parts of the differences that you see in these versions is that this one, which is Raphaelson collection, talks about the beautiful girl as Kaiulani, who is the lizard god, or the Mo'o. So you have the Pele clan, and then you have the Mo'o, who are kind of, sometimes at odds with each other. And so what we find out from looking at different versions is that this is actually this woman, and these birds are actually kupua. So they're messengers. They could be kupua. They could be shapeshifters types, and they bring messages. So a lot of mo'olelo, you'll see birds, but it's coming from a mo'o. So that just changes the story a lot. So I just wanted to point that out. I didn't want to go into it too much more. This place, Bird Island, is interesting. It says it's in Palmalulu, but when I had this in a face-to-face class, many people had ideas of where Bird Island was. One of my paddler students said, "That's the island. There's an island, and we paddle, and we see this island." And she had the story where she could totally explain the island, how Kahikilani's story was. And then I had a surfer who was he was a Sunset local, and he's like, "No, this is definitely Sunset Beach, because that's how the waves are. The waves are, they're puzzling because they do not come sweeping in a straight long swells." I thought it might be Turtle Bay, because there's a lot of birds at the surf spots there. There's just a lot of big birds, but that wouldn't fit into Palmalulu. So this is, these are sacred texts like the Bible, and these types of texts, they always have this mystery to them, where whatever time and whatever place you are, you can put yourself into these stories. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed that. This is Eddie Rothman, and he is talking about the contests on the North Shore and how they're unfair. So I'll just let you, listen for a second, and then I'll kind of explain to you more of what he's saying.
Okay, I got 50 grand that says you put me on a lie detector and you put Graham Stapleberg or Randy Rarick or Paul Speaker on a lie detector, we'll see who's telling the truth here. No verbal acrobats. This erases everything. You want to talk, you can't get too fancy here. You get on a lie detector and let's do it. How does the ASP work? The ASP works by stars, points, and that's it. It works money. If you can put money in, you can have a contest in the Great Lakes, a 6-star prime, worth 10 times more than the kids contest at Sunset Beach, where it was 15 feet, death waves, 8 to 10 feet of pipe, death waves again. On the same day pipe ran, there was a 2-star in Florida because there was more money in the contest. A 5-star in Virginia Beach a month after, 5 or 6 times the points. And before the people come here, they have the Brazilians have a contest in Brazil. A 6-star prime. You think they get paid for that? No, they take the points, rat pack the whole fucking contest over here. The ASB works in a funny way. It should be, you take your surfers from their own countries. You make some kid travel all over the world. He ain't got no money. And the ones with no money, they don't go nowhere. So, this is how it works. Money equals stars equals points. Come on, you got to surf every little shithole in the world? Not right, because there's money. We have money. Talk about money. Oh, we're gonna put 100 grand into a trials in Hawaii. Fuck the 8 guys that came out of the fucking Volcom. They came out of the Volcom. They surfed their hearts out. They put their lives on the line. They came out into the Pipe Masters, and you just throw them on the side, and they're taken too. Because who are you, God? I don't think so. It's not the way it works.
So what Eddie's trying to say here is that these surfing contests here in Hawaii, places such as Pipeline, the local Hawaiian surfers do not even get to compete, a lot of them, in these contests, unless they're willing to go to Huntington Beach, Virginia Beach, places that are, you know, basically once the wave gets over 3 feet, it's a closeout, which is, you know, extremely opposite of surfing a place like Pipeline. I wouldn't even, you know, it's almost like it's a different sport. But a lot of these local surfers, they have to go and surf these small wave places. They have to pay a lot of money because you get to, you know, you go to Virginia Beach, and I mean, I surfed there when I was on the tour. I was literally surfing into the sand, like the waves going on the sand. And it was a six star, which is the highest rated points. So the winner of the tour would have to do well at that contest. And so this is the problem that, you know, we're faced with on the North Shore, is that these contests are not fair often in times, and including the local people, and they're oftentimes disrespectful. You know, you surf, you have a lot of people that surf these places. There used to only be like 4 contests a year, and now there's at least 6. This, you know, Pipeline pretty much breaks from like October to, you know, April, and there will be contests the whole time, and they're going to take the best days in each of those every time the waves get good. So and then they kind of come and push out the people that are there, and push out a lot of the surfers who are some of the best surfers at the spot. There used to be a lot of photo surfers like Randall Paulson and Kalani Chapman and Jamie O'Brien, but this type of idea of just surfing the Pipeline and being paid for it is kind of a thing of the past, because they don't have the opportunity to have those free sessions anymore because the contest is taking place. So my point being that it's still about land. It really is. And so anyways, that's what Eddie, these are the points that Eddie, who is, you know, a member of the Hui o He'enalu, which is what Isaiah Walker was talking about in his book. So you can feel the tension with some of that. So anyways, so these posts about the women were just, they were really great. I was really impressed with, you know, your exchanges, and actually I was impressed with a lot of what some of the males had to say, because it showed that you had thought deeply about the way women were being treated, and it just gives me so much inspiration and hope when I see, you know, the younger generation of males surfers actually really caring about the way the women are treated. And I think that's probably the most important thing to move forward. So just mahalo. And I like that the women were just, you know, they really want change, and really trying hard to figure out why we can or can't get it. But I thought, you know, you guys, you made a great distinction between, you know, Bethany Hamilton, that one of the movies was a documentary, Unstoppable, and the other a feature film, Soul Surfer. One thing that a lot of you missed on your review and also in these posts, though, is time. So you need to always take into account, what's the date? So Soul Surfer was made long before Unstoppable. So that would be something you would want to include in a post or a thread or a review. Is that part of the difference is that, you know, Bethany's a lot younger and hasn't actually had most of the experiences that are being archived in Unstoppable. I actually haven't seen Unstoppable. And a lot of you said it was perfectly this or that. You should never really say perfectly or, you know, words like that. Or authentic. It was authentic. It was live without the fluff. That's how you described Unstoppable. So I would say, how so, though? So you always have to keep going deeper. How are they creating this idea of authenticity? Is it the interviews? Is it the camera angles? Is it the lighting? Is it how how it's being constructed or composed together? Just be specific. Give us some specific. Why do you have that feeling? We don't really know if it's authentic, but it's making you feel like it is, and that's what you need to talk about in a literary analysis. So I thought the comments that a couple people made about Soul Surfer being a Disney film, that was a great interjection. That was the kind of analysis that is really important, because you were talking about, hey, Disney has this way of doing films, and this is playing into how the Bethany story is being portrayed here in Soul Surfer. So, and then we came to Keala and I forgot the last name, but the girl Karen, who was writing about Billabong. And you made some really great points in that thread, you know, and you know, I think you guys are right that it was great that these two women sort of teamed up to shed light on a company like Billabong. And you did a really good job of breaking that down and talking about some of the problems. But I would just really push further on this point. First of all, I would ask Karen why she is even giving Billabong the attention to criticize them. That she has this deep desire for this male surf company to do what's right for women, because there's a lot of women's companies out there that she could have given publicity to that are doing amazing things for women. So we had a good kind of exchange here where Melina actually touches on this issue. You know, why Billabong? And Lohilani emphasized that, you know, Billabong was supposed to provide clothing to people, not just men. But in a capitalist system, it's really more about, hey, how are we going to make money, right? Billabong doesn't have to make clothing for women. And actually, if you know the history of Billabong, which I do, because I had my clothing line when they came out, and here's what I know about Billabong. They were the very last company to actually go into the women's market. And they were hesitant because they thought they thought this marketing for the women would make their kind of male line less hardcore, or, you know, things like that. So having, you know, these female images of women on the beach, of women sort of hanging out with the guys, even, you know, the longboarding image where, you know, it's sort of like girls just want to have fun, is still maintaining this image that they want for this company, which is that there's, you know, this male surfer and the girls kind of sitting on the beach, kind of like the Kahikilani story, waiting for this guy, you know. So that's how they're selling the brand to the men, and it gets hard for them to, you know, subvert this objectivity of women. So I would say if women really want change, don't buy Billabong. Find the women, don't write about Billabong. And then, you know, this is amazing what Kayla has to come out and say, that Billabong dropped me when I had my most success. I mean, that is so significant and important. But what if Kayla just said, hey, Billabong doesn't do a good job of, it doesn't give a good image of women. I'm not going to ride for Billabong. Well, I can tell you, if she didn't ride for Billabong, we wouldn't know about Kayla. Because there's a lot of women who were amazing surfers. They were big wave riders and a lot of things. And if they weren't able to get these big companies behind them, you just don't know who they are. Kayla is one of my favorite surfers. I do think she is one of the best. But I'm just, women, we have to take responsibility as well. We have to, and why do women buy it, right? It's partly because women are buying into that image. They want to be the woman on the beach. They want to be the beautiful woman. So in order to change Billabong, you have to change women, and you have to change what they are being, what's being marketed to them from a very young age. And there's other women who rode for Roxy and they speak out against Roxy, but they only do that after they've, benefited so greatly from these companies. And so I do challenge that, because I went and made my own company. I mean, I literally said, they aren't making board shorts for us. They're not making bikinis for us that stay on. I'm going to make my own company. And I did it, and Karen doesn't seem to care about people like me and all the women's stores who open stores, and, like Girl in the Curl, who's been around for 20 years or something. There's others, so think about that when you think about these issues on women. It's really easy to just be critical of the men, but we have to be critical also of ourselves. And I really liked what Jill Shell said, that women can have the same passion for surfing as the men, and I think that's a key point, that women have the same passion. And I think a lot of women that are really out there in male dominated circles, is what they'll tell you is, hey, I just went out there and I did it because I loved it, and I got that respect from the guys, and in turn the guys gained a new respect for women, that hey, this female is just as hardcore as I am. They're they know how to read the ocean, and they know how to handle themselves in the waves. And then they think about women differently because they have that example. So you have the feminist ideal, where women kind of go and say, we want our rights. And then you have the women who just go and do what they love, and they're just women. Yes, we have different obstacles, but in the end of the day, sometimes that's how you can make the most impact. Okay, so this is me in my little office here, and what you see behind is patterns. These are patterns. So, and then right here, this is what might be the first women's board short ever. I went to Bali. I graduated with a fashion degree from UH Manoa, and I went to Bali in the summer of 1993 on a surf trip to celebrate my graduation. And I had this idea that I was going to make these women's board shorts, because there weren't any out there. No one had them out. So Bali is a really easy place to get like a minimum amount of clothing manufacturing done. So I had about 12 of these shorts made, and so I consider that the original women's board short. And then this is my little team of surfers that I started with here on the North Shore. These were the North Shore girls. At that time, a lot of them were bodyboarders. So it's me and Joyna Dilly and a lot of bodyboard girls, and they really pioneered the big waves as well. the bodyboarders. Okay, so we're gonna walk around. You can see on my ceiling I have like a lot of things. This is one of the first pride contests that I helped to get that going. I promoted it. I surfed in it. Less, you can see it. So you can see up there, you know, that's a lot of those patterns and board shorts, things that I use. So there's more shorts up there. And these are sort of like some of my first ones. You know, and back then it was really, people were really opposed to making women's board shorts. I mean, I don't know why that was, but it was this idea that women weren't going to buy it. There were no women surfers, and they weren't going to buy board shorts. And they were right. There really weren't very many women surfers at that time, but women were going to buy the board shorts because they were going to wear them to the beach. And then here's some of my bikinis. So I make them to stay on. That's sort of my thing. You know, so I still do this, but I'm so busy with teaching and trying to get my PhD that I never have enough time. But this is what it's like. This is my little tiny, you know, office. Behind me you can see like a lot of fabric with all my books. I sold to 50 stores across the mainland, and I had a license with Japan, and I went and did the tour, and I was I went all around the world promoting my company and selling, and yeah, so I had a license with the Japanese company, and so yeah, it's real deal kind of stuff. And then, you know, I'll just show some of my early posters. So, and some of these were ads for different, you know, I did an ad for Water Girl. So that's the picture that got used in the ad. And that was another women's surf shop, early women's surf shop. It's no longer there. You know, so I had a team of about 12 girls, and this was Sue Stewart, or is. She was the North Shore's first woman lifeguard. You know, one of the articles you guys had to read talked about African American women surfing, and I used African American models for my clothing. So I had a lot of graffiti prints that I sold and had streetwear. So I used African American models, and I used women surfers as models, and that was very at that time. Roxy, for example, they weren't using their surfers like Lisa Anderson as models. They were using models and having Lisa Anderson just in the surfing pictures, but I was using real surfers as models, and I was using African American models as well. Now, this model didn't surf, but I had another African American model who surfed and still surfs. So, you know, that one article that talks about, you know, African Americans not, you know, being marketed as surfers. Well, I've been doing that for a very long time. So anyways, this is sort of my opposition to Karen's article, is that there's a lot of good going on out there, but you have to look for it. You know, it's not just being advertised in your face all the time. But this is the kind of stuff that if you want women empowerment, you have to seek it out. You know, you have to find it, you have to pursue it, and you're not going to get attention. You're not going to get attention. You're not going to get, you know, all the followers that you're going to get by doing something positive. But that's what creates real change. So anyways, I really enjoyed you guys' post. It got me thinking. It's helping me in what I'm writing. So I'm having a lot of fun, and I hope you are too. So the assignments for this week and next week are a lot less. You're really just sort of heading towards that final paper. So make sure you go and read that assignment really well. There's a lot of different options, and it's, you know, it's pretty open. So just do something fun. Enjoy it. I really want you to have fun with this. So if you have any questions, email me and let me know what you're doing, and I can okay it or give you suggestions. And I'll chime in with you guys after I've read the papers and sort of go over the final assignment a little more. Okay, oh, huyo.